Welcome to the Explainer. So, May 23, 2026. It's one of those incredibly dense, highly volatile days that really proves just how deeply interconnected our modern world actually is. Seriously, today's global events are coming at us fast, and they demand our full attention. As we unpack everything that's unfolding right now, we're going to cut straight through the noise. We'll connect the dots between high-stakes diplomacy, sudden emergencies, and human resilience. All right, let's just get right into it.
Here's our roadmap for today. We'll kick things off with geopolitics and regional conflicts, then move into global health and epidemics. After that, we'll cover industrial disasters and accidents, followed by politics, civil unrest, and crime, and then we'll wrap up with arts, culture, and sports.
Okay, Section 1, Geopolitics and Regional Conflicts, High-Stakes Diplomacy and Kinetic Warfare. We're starting with the macro shifts happening right now, looking at this wild contrast between monumental peace accords and ongoing kinetic warfare. Largely negotiated, that is exactly how President Donald Trump just described a massive, imminent peace framework between the United States and Iran. It's been heavily mediated by Pakistan, which is really interesting, seeing them leverage their unique spot to bridge the East and West. Anyway, the two nations are nearing a crucial deal to extend their current ceasefire by 60 days and really lay the groundwork for nuclear talks. But, maybe the biggest takeaway for the everyday global economy is that this deal aims to completely reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That is a massive global choke point. Roughly 20% of the world's oil consumption passes through there, meaning its closure has literally been choking international supply chains and driving up your energy prices.
Just to put the sheer severity of this blockade into perspective, before these talks, U.S. Central Command had to step in and successfully redirect 100 commercial ships away from danger. And unfortunately, 4 ships were entirely disabled. This wasn't just some localized standoff. This was a massive global disruption. Think about the logistics, the insane cost of rerouting those giant freighters, the skyrocketing insurance premiums. It sent economic shockwaves everywhere. So looking at the sheer volume of that redirected traffic, you quickly see why getting a diplomatic resolution to reopen that waterway is an absolute top-tier global economic priority.
But of course, while diplomacy makes some headway in one spot, we're seeing the utter fragility of global security basically everywhere else. In the Middle East, an Israeli airstrike destroyed a residential building in southern Lebanon, leaving 9 dead and 6 wounded. And stemming from the region's tensions, we saw a major diplomatic fracture. France has issued a permanent travel ban against Israeli National Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. This came right after the international outrage over leaked military footage involving the global Samud flotilla civilian aid convoy. Meanwhile, shifting to Eastern Europe, the Russo-Ukrainian war is crossing borders again. A successful Ukrainian drone strike just ignited a massive Russian oil terminal in Krasnodar Krai, severely threatening critical energy infrastructure. And finally, if we zoom all the way out to Asia, thousands of anti-war demonstrators rallied outside a U.S. naval base in Japan to protest U.S. and Israeli military actions. It's a perfect example of how local kinetic warfare instantly sets off these global diplomatic fractures and massive social shockwaves. Moving on to Section 2, Global Health and Epidemics, the fight on the front lines. We're shifting our attention now from the battlefield to the medical front lines. We have some really severe, developing medical emergencies unfolding right now. Ebola containment fears are heightening dramatically across Central and East Africa today. This is an ongoing, truly deadly crisis. It really requires us to take a second and acknowledge the extreme, fatal risks faced every single day by the medical professionals and volunteers who are literally putting their lives on the line to contain it.
3. Just 3. That is the number of local International Red Cross volunteers who tragically lost their lives today. They contracted Ebola while bravely working in the Djugu territory of the Democratic Republic of the Congo. It's a number that takes this abstract, statistical concept of an epidemic and grounds it in a really harsh, heartbreaking reality. These individuals were on the ground, standing directly between a highly lethal virus and the rest of the population.
And what elevates this to an urgent global crisis right now is its rapid evolution. What was primarily a localized outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo has shifted. Uganda's health ministry has now confirmed 3 new cases linked specifically to cross-border travel. This is an absolute containment nightmare. When a virus hits transit routes and starts crossing borders, the whole geometry of containment just fails. Contact tracing suddenly becomes exponentially harder, and it heavily strains the international health organizations who are scrambling to track every single person those travelers might have bumped into. Let's move to Section 3, Industrial Disasters and Accidents, Sudden Global Tragedies. 82.
In a literal instant, 82 workers were killed in a catastrophic gas explosion at the Liaoshenyu coal mine in China's Shaanxi province. This is being reported as the country's deadliest mining disaster in years, and right now, rescue efforts are still frantically underway for several others who are trapped deep underground. It's a staggering human cost and a really grim reminder of the dangerous realities and ultimate sacrifices behind feeding our immense global energy demands.
Jumping over to New York City, a massive industrial explosion happened aboard a barge inside a Staten Island dry dock shipyard. One worker was killed and 36 others were injured. This really highlights the terrifying cascading nature of industrial accidents because dozens of those injured were actually first responders. They rushed in to help, right? But then they suffered secondary injuries while just trying to secure an incredibly volatile and hazardous scene. And on the opposite coast, imagine the logistical nightmare of having to pack up and move 50,000 people out of harm's way on a moment's notice. Well, over 50,000 residents in Orange County, California were placed under urgent, mandatory evacuation orders today. Specialized hazmat teams had to scramble to stabilize a massive, structurally compromised chemical tank before it failed entirely. It's a stark reminder of just how vulnerable our infrastructure can be and how fast a domestic hazard can completely upend daily life for tens of thousands of families.
That brings us to Section 4, Politics, Civil Unrest, and Crime, Domestic Instabilities.
We are seeing this really striking parallel in European anti-corruption movements today. Over in Serbia, tens of thousands of citizens flooded the streets of Belgrade protesting against President Aleksandar Vučić, demanding early elections to oust him. And concurrently, in Spain, thousands marched through Madrid demanding the immediate resignation of Prime Minister Pedro Sánchez following high-level cabinet corruption scandals. I mean, we're talking about two completely different countries, two different leaders, but they revealed the exact same core takeaway: a unified, cross-cultural exhaustion with alleged government corruption. It really shows you the immense power of mass civic mobilization right now.
We're also tracking a pretty wild contrast in sudden security events today. In Washington, D.C., Secret Service agents forced the White House into a strict temporary lockdown after multiple gunshots echoed just outside the perimeter. Meanwhile, over in the Middle East, a highly coordinated joint operation between Syrian and Turkish intelligence agencies resulted in the high-profile capture of 10 operatives heavily linked to the ISIL terror network, also known as the Islamic State of Iraq and the Levant. Talk about a split screen, right? A rapid defensive panic in the U.S. Capitol versus a highly coordinated offensive intelligence sweep in Syria.
Finally, Section 5, Arts, Culture, and Sports, Resilience Amidst Volatility.
Okay, let's take a breath and look at some cultural milestones. At the 2026 Cannes Film Festival in France, the acclaimed Romanian director Cristian Mungiu made cinematic history. He won his second Palme d'Or, which is the festival's absolute highest, most prestigious prize. He secured it for his gripping new drama, Fjord. Amidst a very heavy, volatile news cycle filled with conflicts and crises, these moments are such a vital reminder of human creativity and the enduring power of global storytelling to connect us all. But you know, culture and sports don't just exist in a vacuum. Ask yourself for a second, how do global wars impact the World Cup? It might seem like a total stretch, like they're worlds apart, right? But the answer is actually unfolding in real time today, and it links our final story directly back to the geopolitics we discussed at the very top of the explainer.
Get this, because of the severe diplomatic gridlock and the strict U.S. visa restrictions stemming from the ongoing conflicts we've been covering, FIFA officially approved an unprecedented relocation. The Iranian national football team has literally moved their entire 2026 World Cup base camp to Tijuana, Mexico, just to circumvent those restrictions so they can actually participate. International conflict forced a massive, real-world logistical workaround on the world's biggest, most unified sporting stage. It's wild.
Well, we've covered a lot today. In a world this deeply interconnected, which of today's events will be the domino that sets off tomorrow's reality? From those major peace talks in the Middle East to a health crisis crossing borders in Africa, down to the geopolitical logistics of relocating a World Cup team to Mexico, today is absolute proof that nothing happens in isolation. Every single action creates a ripple. So keep questioning, keep learning, and thank you so much for joining me on this explainer.